As you might imagine, this event brought out a lot of families just expecting to enjoy the holiday, the 4th of July, but of course all of that celebration quickly turned into chaos.
One witness shared on TikTok his experience of escaping the area.
It was chaos. It's scary. I heard the gunshots over my right, but everybody's safe. But geez, just creepy, scary, awful, horrifying. You get pulled into an apartment by a nice woman. That was a mess. Adrenaline gets pumping. You can barely see straight.
Joining us now is Erin, who you did just see in that TikTok there. He was at the parade with his family. Erin, of course, we are so glad you and your family are safe today. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
So first of all, we spoke yesterday, and you told me that you were separated when all of this happened from your family. You're all together now. As we said, everyone's safe, but how is everyone feeling this morning?
So surprisingly, I'm the only one awake. I have 3 daughters. My 9-year-old is away at summer camp, but my middle daughter is 6, and she's sleeping with my wife. I think she was a little bit scared last night, so yeah.
What was going through your mind at the time? I mean, I think that when you are around fireworks, you may hear fireworks and think, okay, that's just what that is. But in reality, it's gunshots. In a situation like this, a parade, there's a ton of people there. What was the environment like, and what was going through your mind when you first heard or maybe saw people running? What were you thinking?
Sure. So, my wife and my middle daughter were separated from me because my middle daughter, her name is Shay, she had to use the washroom. So I was holding my baby, and it happened so fast. You know, you hear the gunshots, and you could tell right away. I mean, the people started running down the street. It was like a herd of people towards me. You know, I have the baby, I have the stroller. And, you know, it's just becomes very sort of surreal very quickly. And you can see the panic in people's faces right away, right as the first shot rang out. So you don't know if it's over or where the shooting's coming from. There's mass confusion. People are scared. So it was pretty surreal. Thinking about it now, you know, it still feels very obviously very fresh, and I just can't believe it happened in a place like Highland Park, which is, you know, such a fantastic community to raise a family. So
yeah, and Erin, walk us through a little bit, once you heard that initial gunshot, what it is that you did and what you saw, and you ended up sheltering in place for a little bit.
Yeah, there was a bridge because the train runs through Highland Park, so I was able to take my youngest daughter, and we sort of stood under the bridge for a while, and, you know, couldn't tell if it was quiet or if it was still going on. I saw a gentleman across the street who was bleeding and people running, and I don't know why I grabbed my stroller. I should have left it thinking back, but I was pushing the stroller and holding my baby in my arms. She wouldn't go into the stroller. She was fussing, and a nice woman who was standing in an apartment building grabbed me and pulled me into the vestibule and took me up to her apartment.
And Erin, you said something a second ago that struck me, that you're so surprised that this happened in a community like Highland Park. The country's learning about that community this morning. Relatively affluent suburb of Chicago, predominantly Jewish. We don't know yet if that perhaps played a role in all of this. But I'm curious, as an everyday American, you know what happened in that supermarket in Buffalo. You know what happened in that elementary school in Texas. And now people are using what happened in your neighborhood yesterday to kind of underscore the point that nowhere is safe. This can happen anywhere and to any of us if things keep going at this rate. So I'm curious, what was the root of your surprise?
I wasn't surprised, I guess, looking back now. I mean, Highland Park is correct. It's affluent, primarily Jewish, but, you know, Michael Jordan lived here in the 90s. It's, you know, it's got a rich history of movies. You know, Ferris Bueller was from Highland Park, and John Hughes, who directed all those movies, was from this area. So it was always something that happened somewhere else. shootings like of this magnitude. You know, I remember standing in crowds after shootings and saying, well, geez, what would I do in a situation like that? But never would imagine that I'd have to actually make that decision. But it seems to be a rite of passage as an American these days. You know, you survive some sort of mass shooting, which is absolutely pathetic and awful to say that this is how my children are going to be raised, as survivors of an absolutely horrific event.
So how does this change moving forward? I mean, I personally would be terrified to go to another parade for probably some years to come, especially sounds like you have young children at that. How does this change how you kind of move through life now, having survived such a traumatic situation?
Yeah, it's hard to say now. I mean, my daughter last night said, you know, why would anybody want to ruin 4th of July? You know, in her mind, it was very black and white. It's a fun time. Why would anybody want to be mean or do something nasty? But yeah, there's definitely going to be a lot of apprehension about group events, and she said she didn't want to leave the house yesterday. She was well aware that bad stuff happens when you leave the house, and I don't blame her.
Yeah.
So, you know, just take a day at a time. But Highland Park is a pretty tight-knit, close community and pretty strong, I'd like to think. So I think this community will band together and take the right steps to heal.
Mm-hmm.
And Erin, before we go, here at Newsy, we're not naming the person of interest in the case. We're not even showing his picture. My understanding, though, was that this was a well-known family in that community. His father had run unsuccessfully for mayor of the town. There was a family business, family-owned or run business in that neighborhood for years. Do you know anything about this young man, about this family?
I know nothing about him. You know, I know nothing. I don't really care.
Fair enough. And I will never forget what you said a second ago, that surviving a mass shooting has become a rite of passage in our country. I will remember that for a long time. That is heartbreaking on many levels. Thank you for being with us, for sharing the story, and we're glad you and your family are okay. Thanks for giving us some time.
Thank you.